Welcome back. If you joined us for part one, I'm so glad you're here for part two. And if you're just jumping in, you may want to go back and start there. Either way, let's dive in. I want to go back to some of the corporate stuff. You said that a
Sure.
lot
We
of
got, see, rabbit hole.
but see, but this is what this is about. This is about the conversation. And again, you want your girl listening. I want my girl listening. So hopefully my daughter's listening
Yeah.
too. You said that a lot of burnout and confusion in organizations are actually systems issues, not personal failures. So, what are some of the most common ways you see companies getting this wrong? And can you give a real example of what that actually looks like inside a company?
Yeah. So I was talking with a client a few weeks ago. She's a one-on-one client, and she got put on a performance improvement plan on a PRIP. And she called me immediately and booked some time with me. And I offer just like, hey, ask me whatever questions and let's strategize, or we can do multiple sessions or whatever. So she just booked one, and we just sat and talked. And one of the things that we uncovered is that she was burnt out, and she had gone to her manager to say, I have too much on my plate. I cannot do all of these things. Help me strategize how to be able to do what you're asking. And they gave a couple of strategies, but they weren't feasible. She, in her own admission, she was like, I didn't push back hard because I just felt like I didn't have the agency to do so. And then she continued failing, even though she had asked for help. So that's number one, is listen to your employees when they ask for help. Most of the time, people are going to say, yo, I'm not going to meet this deadline. I have this going on in my life. If you have a one-on-one with someone who's working with you, make sure you're listening to the things that they're saying and they're asking for in order to do their job well. Most of us really do want to work and work well. It's something that is ingrained with us. We like being proud of our output. We like being able to say, I did that, and see the outcome there. People are, this is a whole nother tangent, but I think laziness is a construct. It's not real. Nobody is lazy. We just are told that we're always supposed to be working. And therefore, any type of rest is considered lazy. Any type of lack of productivity is considered lazy. No, that's something we made up. But I digress. So most people really do want to work. So the first thing organizations get wrong is not training leaders and not listening when people say that they need help, and then waiting until there's a deadline. So that's the other thing. Another thing people get wrong is time checking. Why are we checking for people's time? I can take this laptop and work anywhere.
Mhm.
Actually, before I got on this call, I was sitting on the floor because my back hurt, and with my laptop leaned up against and with a yoga mat, you know,
Right.
I can work anywhere. I could pick this up and I could go to the Seychelles Islands and sit on a beach. As long as I'm in the right time zone, I can work anywhere. So why does it matter when this woman is taking her lunch hour? Right? She uses her lunch hour to go pick up her kid. So when other people are, or why are we even saying lunch hour? Right? Like,
Right. Are you getting your job done? Like are
yeah,
you working? I
yeah.
never
So
understood
it's
that. Like if somebody's an active, productive employee, I don't care if you've got to go take your kid to baseball or you've got to go to lunch with your mother or you've got to go run your kids to the doctor. I don't care. Are you getting your work
or
done? Like just do
get
it
your teeth
whenever.
cleaned, or
Right.
like, listen. The point is that her manager was very much about micromanaging, and so she had so much anxiety around time that she was spending time clocking where she was and what she was doing rather than actually doing the job she was hired for. So those two things together, organizations I think are just we're so paternalistic in our need to control people's time, and it's so detrimental to people's mental health, and also their productivity, because if I'm have a whole separate tracking device and worried about, is my mouse moving, and who's watching my screen and all these other things that companies have instilled rather than just, I don't know, treating all of us like we're grown and we are responsible people who have bills and mortgages that have to be attended to, and therefore I need to make sure that, and I inherently want to do a good job. I like the job
Right.
that I'm doing. Like if we come from that people centered, like people are inherently good idea, then a lot of a lot of stuff would not be a
Right.
problem.
And
So
people want to do well. It's not like somebody gets up
yes,
and goes, "I want to do a shitty job today." Like no one says
yeah.
that. No one feels that.
But what we do feel is I don't want to go to work today because I don't want to
Right.
have to deal with this person telling me that I suck.
Yes.
Like I don't
A hundred
I don't
percent.
want to
And
do that.
100%. And that really perfectly is a perfect segue into my next question, my other question of clarity. You talk about clarity and expectations, communications, decision making. What actually changes inside a team or organization when clarity is present?
Well, first you can get things done a lot faster. If we take it's this whole idea, and I get it from waiting tables. When you're slow, speed up. When you're busy, slow down. And when we have to make a lot of decisions, a lot of times, if we just take a little bit of time to slow down and say, what are the priorities? Where is this project going? What are the actual deadlines? Can any of those deadlines be moved? Who is responsible for like, really be clear and granular and take that time to manage a project? Well, all my project managers out there, you will hear this and you will love that I'm saying this, to really like itemize out who, what, when, where, why, and how can just lead to so much more clarity on a team. So we got to take time to just like slow down so we can speed up. Um, and we'll make better decisions when we're more clear. I think the other thing is people, sometimes when people are left to their own devices, they fill in the gaps, right? And you have to create an environment where people can ask questions of like, even if I didn't think about this, and now that I'm in the project or now that I'm working on said task, I'm like, oh, I need to clarify this a little bit, right? We all have been in those moments where you're like, okay, I think this is the direction that my leadership wants me to go, but I'm not 100% sure. And being able to be 95% sure is better than 80%, again, because it's just going to slow you down later. So being able to ask questions of your leadership, of your manager, and making that clear is really, really important. On the other side, leaders have a responsibility to have clear direction. One of the things, responsibilities of leaders, and my clients hate when I say this, but as a leader, your job is to cast vision. And you're going to say things over and over and over and over and over again. By the eighth time, maybe ninth, your team is going to be like, oh, I think you're saying something that makes sense. And then they're actually like honed in to listen. And that as a leader can be very frustrating. But your job is to create clarity and cast vision so that, again, your team can do well and can perform well. If something is ambiguous and people are left to their own devices, especially if you're leading a team of folks, they're going to do a few things. One, they're going to fill that vacuum of lack of clarity with their own information and their own chattering. And then somebody is going to who's ambitious or who just has a loud voice or has a sense of entitlement, whatever that looks like, who wants to get their bonus, they're going to they're going to fill in that gap. And then you
Mhm.
have a choice as a leader to either squash that person, which I would not suggest, or say redirect and say, you know what? I was unclear.
Mhm.
Take responsibility and say, I was unclear. Let me reframe that. Let me make sure that you understand where I'm going, right? I
Mhm.
think it's so frustrating to be on meetings with people when you're trying to I'm just trying to get clarity. We're on the same side here. I just
Right.
want to be clear about where we're going so we can stay on the same side.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people try to fix themselves when something isn't working at work. So, in that kind of situation where there's not clarity or when the team isn't aligned. So, how can someone tell the difference between this is something I need to work on versus this is actually a system issue?
This is such a great question. So the first is understanding the way that the systems and policies work inside of your organization. And I'm not just talking about what's written down in your handbook. I'm talking about how does gender show up in your organization? How does power show up in your organization? Who has it? Who doesn't have it? Who gets voiced in the meetings? Who is able to have the meeting after the meeting where the decision's actually made? Like, really understanding the social dynamics can go a long way in figuring out if it's a structural or an individual problem. I get this coming from the lens of a Black woman who's worked in corporate, right? A lot of times the perception of who I am enters the room long before I'm even there. My headshot shows up on a Zoom call or on a client meeting or whatever that looks like. People make assumptions about me that are outside of my control and haven't been and are only influenced by the fact that I am a woman with long hair who has brown skin and who the other things, some of them you can't see, it doesn't even matter. So just understanding that and thinking like, okay, is this a perception issue or is this actually something I could be working on? Now, my dad used to tell me all the time, you know what, Grasshopper, you could be kinder and gentler, which is probably true. 100%. I'll own that, right? But sometimes I'm like, no, I am being kind and I am being gentle, but people are assuming that I'm not because I'm being direct, right? So understanding how those things work and function. And one hack that I live by is don't take advice from somebody whose position you wouldn't want to be in.
Yep.
Like now, if they have
Or
the power
hasn't done the things you
or
want to be
hasn't
doing.
done
Or
the things that part. Like if you haven't done the things that I want to do or am doing, I don't know, I don't know if you're the best person to give me advice. I will be kind and I will listen and I will say, oh, thank you so much for the feedback, but I might not internalize it. I might write it down and then come back to it later. I think just really understanding and coming from that sense of like, some people you're just not going to be able to control their perception and that's okay. Understanding the dynamics of what's happening inside of your organization when it comes to power, understanding the written policies and the unwritten ones, right? Who's some people's teams are a little more loosey goosey with things than others. And then also knowing your strengths and just knowing what you actually do bring to the table.
Well, yeah, and I think taking, constructive criticism or taking feedback is great, but I think also the saying that I live by and I 100% believe in, other people's opinions are not my business, right? That's none of my business. I really believe that because, and it takes a long time to get to that space where you actually can live that, but it releases you from so much. It's like, am I doing a good job? Am I a good person? Am I doing good things? Okay, then if you don't like my hair, my shirt, my attitude, whatever, then that's none of my business, right? And so I think once we can let go of that while still taking feedback, like, nobody's perfect. Like nobody does everything perfect. So as long as you can ingest the feedback and then release yourself from whatever those preconceived notions are or opinions that people have, I think that's the money space to be in, right? That's where it's
Yeah.
really a good space to be working out of.
Yeah, and I think as women, we spend so much time thinking about, like you said, what other people think of us. And the time that we're spending thinking about what other people are thinking about, they're not spending that time thinking about you, sister. They're really just not.
Right.
And
Right.
because everybody is trying to figure out their own thing, everybody has their
Exactly.
own issues, challenges, and problems. And you obsessing about what people think about you and how now you do have to be aware of how you show up, right? But are you showing up, like you said, with kindness? Are you showing up with a knowledge base? And rather than internalizing all the things that people could be thinking about me, let's think about like what's good for the business and how I'm going to manage my household. Like there's other issues and challenges that could be occupying your space, and the time that you're spending talking about and thinking about that is time that you're not focusing on the things that could actually move your career or move your life forward.
Exactly. Okay, so you're doing a lot right now. You are consulting,
I'm a
writing,
busy woman.
speaking,
I
your
do.
podcast,
Yeah.
the ultimate multi-hyphenate woman here. So let's hear, how can people connect with you? What are you doing? Tell us all about your work and tell us
Yeah.
all about what you're doing.
So, like you said, I am a writer. So I am currently working on my book. Hopefully that will be out by the end of the year, or at
Ooh,
least
I love
like
it.
we'll see.
What
Um,
what is in your book? Is it a memoir? Tell us about it.
Good question. So it's from chaos to clarity, and it is a memoir. Yeah, talking about my life
Mm,
and how I've moved from being in spaces of chaos and like moved to more clarity and like life lessons. Um, I actually am noodling around putting out a little mini ebook in honor of my dad. My dad passed away 5 years ago, this past March, and he was a fantastic cook. And one of the things that he always did is make chili in the summer because he just liked chili. So I'm thinking about putting out like a book of his recipes called "My Dad Makes Chili in the Summer." So
oh,
yeah,
that's so sweet. I
um,
love it. You should
so
do that.
yeah, but like he also had these amazing life lessons. Again, black man from Cincinnati, from like a or went to school in a small town. He was the only person in his family to go away to school. So all the things that he learned along the way, and then living in the Midwest, working in corporate America. I always joke he was a blue collar guy in a white collar world. And so he just had a lot of like wisdom and insight. And so I've been writing them down recently and I was like, maybe
Oh, I
if I pair
love
this with some
this.
of his recipes, this might be kind of good. So
Oh,
we'll see. One or two of those will come out and you'll be able to find them at iamcasscooper.com. I am so easy to find. iamcasscooper.com has all my things, all my speaker reel, where I do my keynote speaking. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at just underscore Cass 2.0. Simple. But most of my leadership content you can find on LinkedIn. So Cass R. Cooper.
amazing.
Yeah, just find
And
me on
and
LinkedIn.
we'll put all of it in the show notes. So for anybody
Yeah,
listening
yeah.
or watching, you can find all the information. But I
And
then
listen,
I
my DMs are open. I think a lot of people, when they get to like a quote unquote certain level, which I don't even know if I'm at, but they don't respond to their DMs. I will respond to you. If you, it might not be immediate, but within a couple days, I'm gonna be like, ooh, someone messaged me, and then so ask me a question. I'm happy to collaborate. You can book time with me, just 20 minutes if you have a question, and I'm happy to be of service to people. I just think a lot of people are going through a lot of burnout and uncertainty with new AI tools and layoffs and all sorts of things. And how if my journey and my story can help somebody else navigate that with a little bit more clarity and whisper to their chaos, I'm happy to do that.
and also your podcast. You're doing a podcast too,
Yes,
and I've
and
listened
Carrie
to it.
is
It's
going to be a
fabulous. I
guest.
cannot wait. I cannot wait. But it's a great podcast and it's great content. So and that's on your casscooper.com too.
Yes.
Okay,
So
perfect.
it's right there with you. The first two seasons, I collaborated with my dear close friend, the gardening theologian. She talks about gardening, equity and inclusion, religious deconstruction, and so our lives just intersected in a very cool. We actually met on TikTok. So, like I said, my
Love it.
DMs are open. Like you can. Who knows? Maybe 5 years later, you'll be co-hosting a podcast with me,
So
and
fun.
be one of my closest friends who let my dog eat a hamburger on accident.
Oops.
I
As a
was
best
like,
friend would.
girl, you can't feed her McDonald's. Anyway,
Listen, it's
so
like aunties and uncles. Like they get to
yeah,
do the fun stuff that you're like, do not do that, and they're like, bye, have
you're
fun with the
like, oh my
cleanup.
bad, and then you just get on a plane and leave. Like what?
Hmm.
So, but this season it's going to be, I'm focusing all on guests and having people come and chit chat and share their experience, with work and burnout and how they're navigating life. I think so many of us are just, out here winging it, but we
Yeah.
have resources and we have other people who can lean in and tell us some things. So I'm really excited to have you on. We've got a great lineup this season. It's going to be really fun. It's going to be really fun.
I'm so excited to be on. And again, it's a the episodes that I've seen are fabulous. So everybody get on her website and find those episodes, find that podcast. You mentioned, I always ask questions of my guests. You mentioned that instead of going to something like basketball camp in high school, you went to social justice leadership camp, which feels very on brand. Looking back, do you feel like you've always been wired this way? Or did that develop over time? Or tell us a little bit about that. I'm really interested to know.
Yeah, so I went to a camp called Camp Anytown. I don't know if it's still around, to be honest. It was sponsored by the National Conference of Community and Justice, which in the 80s and 70s and 80s was the National Conference of Christians and Jews. And the origin was to have people of different faith backgrounds to come together and figure out how to live in community and communicate. As time progressed, they became focused on social justice. And so they had a 1 week institute for kids in high school and a little bit in college. And we went and we stayed for a week and we learned about the cycle of oppression, racism, sexism, ableism, all of those things. So I was, I think, 15 when I went. And then
Amazing.
I went back the following years as a counselor and taught the things there. And then that's when I went to DePaul University and got my degree in women's and gender studies. So I don't think that I've always been, well, you know what? Actually, I don't think I've always been wired this way, but I was raised by very feminist parents also. So maybe it was just kind of like it was going to happen.
Maybe you were born that way.
And I'm
Maybe.
not thinking about it, like cue the Lady Gaga, but like I
Right.
think maybe I had, yeah. And so in like just as life has progressed, I've always been just like so interested in knowledge and reading, and I just continued to study and try to understand race, gender, and class and how they intersect. Ability as well, especially having hidden illness and having a disability myself. So, and honestly, Carrie, I thought that everybody was interested in this stuff because I'd be like, oh, this is just so fascinating. And like,
Listen,
oh, let me hear some more and let me listen. And so now I'm like, oh, wait, I have knowledge that other people just either one, don't want the knowledge or two, like have no idea where to start. And I was like, well, I have a list of books that you could maybe.
I mean, everybody should be exposed to it. That's for sure. And especially at a young age when you're really trying to figure out who you are and what you care about and, where you're going to be going and what you're going to be doing in your life. So I love it that you went it in high school. That's so cool. And like I said, everybody should be going to that. Everybody should have a camp like that. I mean,
Yeah.
or learning it in school, which again, that's a whole nother rabbit hole, but
I will
okay.
say one of the proudest moments that I had recently with my kid is we were cleaning their room and we were going through like old books and stuff, and you buy all these books and sometimes they read them and they stick and sometimes they're like, that book is terrible, I never want to hear it again. And some of the books that of course that I bought, like How to Raise an Anti-Racist, and one of my favorites is Julian as a Mermaid, and it's about a little transgender boy. It's like really beautiful, like imagery and stuff. And so I was going through the books, and I was like, "Oh, I don't want you to get rid of these. These are so great." And she's like, "Mama, I get it. I understand why LGBTQ challenges are like that way." And I said, "Okay, tell me why." She's like, "Because some people live in a world where their parents do not allow them to be totally who they are." And I was like, "You can get rid of the book.
Tears,
You got it.
insert
You got
tears.
it.
Oh
It's
my
up."
God, I love this.
I'm like, thank you. I'm like,
It
yeah.
does.
So,
It makes such a difference what we expose them to at a young age. Um, and like you telling this story is making me think of all these other stories. I still have my daughter's like books from when she was a little kid. I was like, I'll keep them. It's fine. But they do ingest it. So I love that story. I was like, let me It's somebody's cutting onions. Um,
I did take some of them and kept some of them just to have. But then I contacted her school and was like, "Hey, we have all these books. Do you all just like want to add them to the library?" And so they added some to the library, and then they just put them out for some of the kids to just take.
I love that. Then they're getting used, it's like then other kids are getting exposed to it. Maybe their parents cannot afford to buy it, or maybe they don't know to buy it, right? And maybe that one book that you gave like really blows somebody's mind open to the totally changing them into a different person as they get older, like in a good way. Like it's all about exposure, right?
For sure, for sure. Oh, this
Okay,
has been so
so
fun.
at It's Not That Serious, we do a monthly series highlight called our WHIP series, which it stands for Women in Power, and we highlight total amazing badass women, and it highlights, something in their life that they went through that was really hard and how they got through it or how they're getting through it. But power, women in power, power can mean many things. When you hear the phrase, WHIP or women in power, what does that phrase mean to you?
Um, I have the privilege of coming from very powerful women, very amazing, smart, talented, entrepreneurial, politically minded women. I laugh. My aunt Patricia, you cannot get on the phone with her unless you want to hear about local politics because that woman has been volunteering all over Georgia for as long as I can remember. Um, and so when I hear women in power, it's less about finding empowerment and more about knowing that you already have it.
Yes, I love that. The whole concept of the series is really to highlight that, and to kind of touch on back to what we were talking about earlier. All of these women, you see all these amazing women that are doing amazing things, and for the younger gals that maybe, and even for even for women my age, right? You see these women and you think, oh my God, they're just killing it, they're crushing it. They probably never had to go through what I'm going through, all this crap back here. And oh my God, I could never tell them about it because they'd never relate. They'd think I was nuts or whatever. And it's like, no, everybody's going through something. Everybody, especially women that are crushing it, they have been through something tough and they have learned how to get through it and they can relate 100%. So I think drawing that, common thread through women so we can lean on each other and have that network, but also understanding we already have the power within us. It's not about, like you said, it's not about, getting empowerment. It's about understanding. And that is the empowerment, right? Is understanding that the power is already here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to outsource and go find it. It's inside of you. You just need to take some time to access it.
Mm, I love this. Thank you so much. I am so happy that you came on. I feel so happy for all the women that are going to get to listen to this and see your lovely face. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being just an awesome supporter of what I'm doing. And I'm happy to be a supporter of what you're doing, what you're saying, and what you're sharing with the world is so important, and women need to hear it. So again, I'll put all of Cass's contact stuff notes in the show notes so you can find her. Please go check out her podcast. Please go check out our website. And thank you so much, Cass, for coming on. And everybody, please go to It's Not That Serious. Check out our Women in Power. Buy a shirt, buy a mug, whatever. But thank you so much for being here. See you next time, guys. That's a wrap on today's episode of Carrie, It's Not That Serious. If this conversation resonated, subscribe and share it with a WHIP, a woman in power in your life. You can find more conversations, more community, and all the fun INTS merch you love at itsnotthatserious.com. We're building something meaningful here, and I'm so glad you're a part of it. Until next time, remember, it's not that serious.